This is the Ohio AgNet from the Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by BASF and Certain Corn Herbicide. Unleash residual power early to allow for pre- or post-application to attack weeds at their weakest. I'm Ty Higgins. Yesterday was Sunrise Cooperative's FFA Career Day at their South Charleston location. I talked with Sunrise CEO George Secor about why his organization is so involved with the FFA.
It goes way back, I'll say 5-6 years ago. They had a need, and that was they needed a vehicle for the state president to drive around. And of course, that's a freshman in college. It takes the year off to travel around to all the meetings, all the group things that go on, leadership nights, so forth. And I said, I'll tell you what, we have a need. I could see going forward a bunch of retirees coming in Sunrise. And these are people that's been here 45, 50, some of them 55 years. And we need to replace that. At the same time, I kept hearing about all these kids that were doing great in school, great in sports, great in FFA, and they didn't want to go to college. But yet they were being pressured, if you will, that if you didn't go to college, you weren't successful, or you couldn't be successful. I thought, wait a minute. I had to throw back to my own childhood. Biggest argument I ever had with my parents was, I did not want to go to college. But let's be honest, I graduated in 1980. And if you didn't go to college, you didn't even get to interview an entry-level position in agriculture. Right or wrong, just the way it was. So I broke down, went to college. My whole life, though, as I went through my career, I thought, I wish I had kids that really wanted to be in agriculture. I don't need them to go to college. I like to call it, they'll come to Sunrise University. So I sat down with Jessica, and I highlighted, I said, here's the deal. I'll give you a brand new pickup truck every year for the state president to drive. In exchange, you're going to give me a funnel of all these great FFA kids, which is nearly 30,000 kids now in Ohio. You're going to give me the funnel of the ones that's raised their hand and says, I want to be in agriculture. I don't want to go to college. These kids have led at leadership nights, soil judging. They led in sports. They led it in their schools, grade-wise. These are really good kids. And it's a shame that they have to feel like they're less than because they don't want to go to college. I said, we'll change that. If you want to be in agriculture, we'll change that. So we started that 5 years ago, and now there's 40-some kids within Sunrise that's in the program. They're full-time. They have a retirement plan. They have health care. They're a Sunrise employee. They're on a career path to stay with us, hopefully, for 45 or 50 years.
Let me take you back to your FFA days. If you were a student here today, and this is a great place to have an event like this because you have the agronomy aspect, you have the technology, you have the equipment, what would most excite you as you made your rounds to these things if you were a student today?
You know, I go back to 18 years old, and I got to tour some local facilities around where I grew up in Willard, and I thought about all the places I wanted to work, and I wanted to learn about the grain, I wanted to learn about the agronomy. Feed, it was the big thing because I was around livestock growing up. And when I walk into places like this today, I'd be like, I don't know where to start. And we have to do that sometimes because the kids, I want to be in all this. And we make them slow down. We do rotations every 3 or 4 months. So you're going to change divisions. You're going to change facilities. You're going to have to learn how do you communicate with fellow employees. How do you communicate with the customer? And all of them say the same thing. There's way more opportunity here than we ever knew.
George Secor, CEO of Sunrise Cooperative, hosting a slew of FFA students for their career day here in South Charleston. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ty.
Let's get a check of the forecast brought to you by Seed Consultants, Simply Better Performance, online at seedconsultants.com. Here's Ryan Martin.
Northern half of the state is on the hook for some scattered showers today. I think clouds hit everyone. But from I-70 north, we have to allow for a tenth to maybe half an inch of moisture, 75% coverage or so. We're going to clear out overnight tonight, and I think we're going to be looking at partly sunny skies in the state tomorrow, at least into early or mid-afternoon. Scattered showers come back then tomorrow afternoon and evening, continuing into early Friday. An additional 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch of moisture coming from that second wave. Now, we do see everything get out of here fairly quickly Friday midday and afternoon. Get some sunshine back, but we're also seeing temperatures drop. Quite chilly, especially compared to what we're dealing with now. So we're going to be chilly to finish the week, and we're going to stay chilly for the weekend. Could see some strong north winds, give some lake effect cloud cover in here into early next week. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Ryan. Time for this morning's South American Update, brought to you by Seed Genetics Direct, the #1 fastest growing and largest Ohio-based independent seed company. Here's Joel Penorwood.
It's time for the latest South American update thanks to Seed Genetics Direct, the #1 fastest growing and largest Ohio-based independent seed company. Our South American correspondent Geraldo Isolde tells us that as Brazil is moving into its critical second corn crop, the safrinha crop, the numbers look big, but the balance sheet remains tight. Brazil's total corn production projected near 139 million metric tons. That would be the second largest crop ever. Soybeans estimated around 176 million tons. That's just below USDA's outlook, but demand growing even faster than supply towards their way. Brazil's total corn demand this season estimated at 141 million tons. That actually exceeds production. Domestic use, especially corn ethanol and livestock feed, continuing to surge as well. That's pushed Brazil's stocks-to-use ratio down to 13% compared to just a few years ago, it was at 19%. Now, even with a large crop, Brazilian corn prices have stayed firm, around $5.35 per bushel equivalent to here. And with safrinha accounting for 80% of total production and still facing weather risk, the market remains sensitive. So at the end of the day, despite big crops on the horizon for Brazil, their corn balance sheet is tight, and that's helping to support global corn prices moving forward. You can find the full in-depth recap from Geraldo online today at ohioagnet.com. Again, the South American Update series, thanks to Seed Genetics Direct. I'm Joel Norwood reporting.
Thank you, Joel. Later on today, hundreds of Ohio Farm Bureau members gathering in Columbus to meet one-on-one with their state senators and representatives during this year's Ag Day at the Capitol. You can join me and the Ohio AgNet as we broadcast live from the event with coverage brought to you by Ohio Farm Bureau. The Ohio AgNet continues after this.
Ohio farmers are excited about the approval of Striax dicamba herbicide for in-crop soybean use. For a limited time, B&B AgVantages in Conover, Ohio, are reopening cash discounts and financing on Asgrow soybeans. This is a fantastic opportunity to return to the proven yield performance of Asgrow soybeans and the strong weed control system of the XtendFlex system. Orders must be placed and paid for by March 13th. Contact B&B AgVantages for details at 937-368-3880.
Get ready to bid on the heavy equipment and vehicles you need in a Ritchie Brothers Midwest Regional event happening March 26th and 27th. Inventory is at Ritchie Brothers locations in Columbus, Chicago, Detroit, Minneapolis, Kansas City, and Lincoln, with in-person inspections available. Bid on a wide selection of excavators, loaders, dump trucks, and truck tractors. Don't miss this great opportunity. Visit rbauction.com/Columbus to sign up. rbauction.com/Columbus.
Welcome back to the Ohio AgNet. I'm Ty Higgins. At the recent Ohio Pork Congress, a lot of talk about Proposition 12 and other priorities for 2026 for the pork industry. Brianna Smith has this update in today's featured audio.
Proposition 12 remains one of the biggest policy issues facing pork producers as the industry continues pushing for a national solution. During the Ohio Pork Congress in Lima, I caught up with Brian Humphreys, CEO of the National Pork Producers Council, asked him for the latest information on where Prop 12 stands, as well as other initiatives the NPPC is targeting in 2026.
Prop 12 was passed in 2018 as a ballot measure in the state of California that set a series of completely arbitrary, non-veterinary, non-science-based standards that had to be met in order to be able to sell certain pork cuts into the state of California. And I want to be clear, I highlight certain pork cuts because, again, if it is bacon or sausage, it doesn't have to meet those standards. But if it's a pork loin, it does. And so when we talk about this, it is the ridiculousness of these regulations that we're having to deal with. So you have the state of Massachusetts that has similar legislation, slightly different. You have California that has Proposition 12, and we know of several other states who are evaluating similar legislation. The challenge that we face in pork industry is that none of those are the same. And so if you raise pigs to meet from Massachusetts question 3, you will not qualify to sell that same product into the state of California. So what happens if New York or Oklahoma or Wyoming passes Prop 15, Prop 18, Prop 30? American agriculture, and specifically the U.S. pork industry, cannot comply with 50 different state regulations to be able to sell pork. And we took this case all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said at the end that they While they disagree with our argument, they agree that it is a problem and that that Congress needs to fix it. Well, we agree. Congress needs to fix this. And thank goodness for an outstanding chairman of the House Ag Committee, G.T. Thompson, who has said that he's going to include a solution to Prop 12 and the potential patchwork that it creates in the Farm Bill. And so we look forward to continuing to work with him and the members of Congress who will help push this. And for those here in Ohio and your listeners and readers around the country, this is something that we would encourage them to pay attention to and engage with Congress on, because if it can happen in the pork industry, it can happen in the seed industry. It is happening in the pesticide and herbicide industry. It can happen to any industry. And the only solution is for there to be a federal solution, and that comes via the Farm Bill.
Ideally, what would that federal solution look like?
Well, I think there's, as we look at it, the Save Bacon Act that was introduced by Ashley Hinson out of Iowa is an outstanding place to start. It overturns unscientific legislation in California and puts us back to where states can certainly pass laws and regulate within their own borders. Right here in Ohio, the industry negotiated and navigated through 15 years ago a move away from gestation stall bans. That was implemented and worked on by farmers and by folks here in the state of Ohio to impact their businesses right here in Ohio. What we are after, and the language that we're looking for in the state and in Congress, would say that you cannot regulate outside of your borders. What California did was to say to be able to sell product into their state, it had to meet their arbitrary standards. That doesn't work for interstate commerce. And so our solution is fixing that so that states can still regulate within their borders. Ohio can still set standards for Ohio producers, but California cannot dictate to Ohio farmers how to raise pigs.
What do you think is going to be the top priority for NPPC in 2026?
A solution to Proposition 12 as part of the Farm Bill and a broader push. A close second is continuing to work with the Trump administration on access and trade. And been a lot of ups and downs in 2025, certainly, but 25 to 30% of our product is exported, and there remains tremendous opportunity there. And this administration, the Trump administration, has been outstanding on a couple of key markets, specifically Malaysia and Cambodia, and we look forward to continuing to work with them on other markets as well.
Reporting for Ohio's Country Journal and Ohio AgNet, I'm Brianna Smith.
Thank you, Brianna. We'll get a check of the markets and analysis coming up next on the Ohio AgNet.
Attention construction pros. Purple Wave Auction brings quality equipment to your fingertips. Join our bi-weekly online auctions featuring dozers, excavators, loaders, and more. We provide detailed listings, photos, and seller contact info. Inspect online or in person. With our no reserve policy, every item sells to the highest bidder. Visit purplewave.com today and see why informed builders choose Purple Wave. Transparent processes, real deals, your next great purchase awaits. purplewave.com.
Farmers, crop consultants, certified livestock managers, and agribusiness leaders. Keep up with the latest trends in agriculture March 10th and 11th at the Conservation Tillage and Technology Conference at Ohio Northern University in Ada. Increase your knowledge and bottom line with over 60 presenters. Register for the conference today at cttcohio.com and get exclusive access to videos of the sessions after April 15th. CCA and CLM credits included. Welcome back to the Ohio AgNet. I'm Ty Higgins, and this morning's market analysis is brought to you by Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to bring a brand new soybean crush facility to Upper Sandusky. Learn more about marketing your soybeans with LDC at 574-566-2113. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished mixed to mostly lower on Tuesday, the first trading day of the week after the President's Day holiday on Monday. Corn finished down 5 to 6. Wheat markets were down as well, anywhere from 3 to 11 cents, the biggest drop coming in the Chicago nearby March contract. But soybeans turned positive late morning into midday and finished just a couple of pennies higher on old crop, 3 to 4 higher on new crop. The potential need of Russia to become more aggressive in world trade was the big story in the marketplace yesterday, and there was a lot of additional soybean buying debate from China ongoing. Argentine corn, Brazilian soybeans, and Argentine wheat prices continued to trade at prices well below the U.S. Gulf yesterday. The U.S. soybean futures moved higher on the hopes that China would secure additional tonnage. However, to this point, there has been no assurance that any purchase will be made before President Trump and Chinese President Xi meet in early April. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Ryan. Markets on the Ohio AgNet brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance. Online at seedconsultants.com. March corn 1.5 to the plus side, 4.27 3/4 overnight. May 4.37 1/4, up 1.5. Soybeans for March 11.42 a bushel. That's 8 cents to the good. May up 8 points at 11.56 3/4. And wheat for July up 1 3/4 at 5.53 a bushel. After the close yesterday, live cattle for February 246.55 up 347, April up 217 at 242.80. Feeder cattle for April 367.82 up 437 yesterday. April lean hogs 92.30 up 102, and the May up $1.02 as well at 96.32. For the Ohio AgNet, I'm Ty Higgins reporting. We'll see you down the road.